What's up, legends? Welcome back to the CXO Podcast. Johnny Salmon here. And today I'm joined by none other than Andrew McIntosh. How are you, mate?
G'day, guys. How you going? Doing
What is
well.
happening?
Doing well.
Good to hear, mate. Good to hear. So for a little bit of background, I've got a couple of notes here so I don't go too off track. But Andrew and I met just over 12 months ago. He needed a hand around his fitness and training. And one of our first conversations was that he needed a hand as he was intending on, or maybe had just applied for, correct me if I'm wrong, the Australian Defence Force.
Yeah,
So the goal was cool. So the goal was to become a pilot. Okay. And at that time, Andrew was training, he was eating food, he was doing what he thought was the right things, but his progress had plateaued. And mate, was it 10 or 15 kilos you'd already lost?
From when I first made the decision, I think it was about 10 kilos that I'd started to come down on. As you know, losing weight at that level it's a lot easier at the high end to come down from.
Yeah.
But yeah, then after a while, I just got stuck, and yeah, you flicked us a message and jumped on it.
Yeah, that's great. And so when we met, you were 105 kilos, and so you were in the 115 mark prior to us meeting. And post production, I'm going to throw a photo in, if that's all right, of you standing on the beach with the shirt off.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And you know why it'll be a good one, mate, is because I've had these conversations recently. A lot of blokes I see, they'll start their process, they'll get into the gym, they'll get strong, they'll start lifting and eating whatever they want in heaps, and they put on a lot of body fat. And so we've gone through that process with you now. Like Andrew's lost about 13 kilos of body fat. And so sitting at anywhere between 92 and 94 kilos at the moment, which is awesome. And for reference, like that is a significant amount of weight change from like 115 down to 92 kilos, and a completely different way of operating. So, and for anyone that's on the edge of their seat, would you like to share the big news about the work situation?
Yeah, so I finished up my current job last Thursday, because I got a phone call that said I've been successful on enlisting to the RAAF as a pilot. So I go down to my basic training and then flight school in mid-November. We crack on from there, start serving the country.
Congrats, man. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Very cool. And you know, the reason that it pumps me up when I when I have these conversations is because I sit down with face-to-face or on Zoom with a lot of people or have phone calls with them. And people will talk about goals, right? And I genuinely believe, so for anyone listening, like I hear a lot of people that limit themselves on goals. Like they'll set a goal here when they could be here. Or they will talk about it, but you can't hear the conviction in their voice and they don't see it through. And I used to be someone like that when I was younger. And I had people challenge me on it and people push me into like healthy pressure and coach me and mentor me into doing things. And, you know, Andrew's been through the process of he did the work. I've just helped facilitate and steer the ship. I'm not propping myself up. I'm just saying it was cool to sit down with you, have the conversation, and then get a text from you saying, or a call like a couple of weeks ago saying, I just got an offer and I'm starting. Like that was so cool to see, to be part of that journey, mate. So congrats.
Absolutely. No, it certainly does help. I mean, it gave me an undeniable excuse to say, all right, let's actually dial in now. You know, instead of prior where, you know, I've been to the gym over the many years that I've kind of tried to, nothing's ever really stuck. I've had personal trainers before, kind of fizzled out. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of things in life that changed. You know, obviously one of them was my faith, obviously becoming Christian. There's a lot more riding on my decisions now. And I think respecting the body that God gave me is a massive thing. And therefore, you know, deciding to join the Defence Force, it's not a light decision. You know, that's a big commitment back to the country. Often they ask for a long period of time, years of service back to them, called a ROSO. And a pilot's one is 10 years. So once I'm trained, 10 years to the country, that's trained me to do all these things. And so when I did, you know, initially contact you and started training, I had a year in my head to get my affairs in order. Well, we actually didn't know. I remember there was so much of that time where it was like, could be here, could be here, could be here, could be here. And it just, there was this whole unknown. And so it was like, all right, we need to get this done as soon as possible.
Yes.
And it just so happened that it was almost a year to the day that started to when I get in, but it's only the first step really to continuing the lifestyle that has been built with the good foundations.
Totally. Mate, give me 1 sec. For some reason, I've pressed the button on my mouse and you've disappeared off my screen. I don't know why.
Nah, that's all right.
No,
I
we're
can
back.
still see you. We're here.
We're good. We're good. What
No,
I was
that's
trying
great.
to do was pull up these numbers again. Acknowledge everything you just said. Firstly, like, mate, treating people underestimate, I think, the performance they can get out of their body and their brain. So talking about treating your body well and treating it like a temple that it is, looking after yourself physically and mentally is like a responsibility
Yeah,
that we all have.
it is.
And at one stage in my life, I wasn't doing that. At one stage in your life, I wasn't doing that. So the purpose of this conversation for any listeners or watchers is to inspire you that if you're not doing that, just take, like, you've made one step, or you're the first step in listening to something like this, and then the next step is to actually go on and do something about it, because listening and becoming inspired is just that first step, but actually putting a plan in place, getting help, telling a friend, telling your partner, and actually acting on it is different.
Absolutely.
And mate, I want to acknowledge your efforts. Like, you can do over 50 push-ups now, over 10 chin-ups. I believe 1 in 10 blokes can do that. 10 chin-ups or more. Because I've seen people in the gym doing it, So that's a mad effort. 80 sit-ups. You can run a sub 30-minute 5K, deadlift 150 kilos. And what'd you run on the beep test?
9.5 is my fastest, or the longest I've done it.
Yeah.
Coming from not being able, I've never been a runner ever.
Yeah.
I've been always gym fit, but never fit, and that's, I think, a really guy thing is like, oh yeah, I can bench 2 plates on whatever. I can do 110 for reps, whatever. But if you try and get me to run down the road, watch out,
That's right.
And so adding all of that fitness together, I think when I started my beep test, building up part of the ADF fitness test, I think the first time I ever did it, I ran a 5.4 and was gassed, like dead.
Yep.
Whereas now I can run a 9.5, still, that's my max, and still pushing and still growing. I'm gassed at the end of it, but my recovery, like, I'm good 10 minutes later. I could go to the gym, could certainly have another crack. Don't know if I get the same result, but that's just such an indicator of,
totally
the other benefits you get from all the training that you give us. And so, yeah, it all just fits together nicely.
100%. And man, I remember some of those text messages early on, like, where you might send me a beep test thing or a run that you did, and it's like, great work, do it again next week. Because it's like, fantastic in doing it. And that's what I was saying before. Take the first step, do the next one. It's like, great work getting it done, but it's still short of where you need to be. So you're just going to have to get back on the horse. And that can be a really hard thing to cop when you're putting in big effort. You're cooking food, you're eating it, you're being really consistent daily, every day for months can feel like a year. And this is, I think, why a lot of people lean out of or don't even lean into the process, is because they're looking too far down the track and not trying to lose the 25 kilos like that. But it's like, you might have taken years to put that on. It's almost like, well, how dare you think you can just change it in 6 weeks?
Yeah, exactly right. Like, I didn't just become like that overnight. And that was a whole bunch of stuff, basically culminating from COVID, really, let's call it, where it just, gently, and then all of a sudden you look at yourself in the photo that you'll edit in, and you're just like, no, that's not all right.
Yeah, for sure. And
but in the same way, I look at the photo. Yeah, that one gym photo, you look at yourself a year later, and you're like, cool, that's the same kind of effort. Just gradually getting there each day. There'll be moments where it's absolute rubbish to do over and over again. You just want to smack a pizza or a burger and just go, whatever it is. It's, like, if you zoom in on it, like, it's a lot of that, up and down, up and down, up and down. But then if you take a massive zoom out, it's just like this, Yeah. So it's great.
Exactly. Mate, what are some of I want to talk about, we've talked about the wins. Let's talk about lessons. I call them lessons instead of challenges, but call them challenges if you want. the things that were, where was the resistance on this journey for you?
I think initially it's just changing the habit. I am not exactly a habitual person. I live in organized chaos in some elements of my life. I kind of thrive in it. But to just change the way that I think about doing things and doing things that I said I was going to do, even after the feeling I set it in has long dissipated, is the thing that, is probably the best thing to learn quickly. Is you've just got to do it. No one's coming to rescue you in this life, unfortunately. You have to make the efforts to do those things, and it will get you when you least expect it. You can be having such a wonderful run of things, and all of a sudden, you have a week off, you're smashed or whatever, and you're 1.5 kilos back up through no real intention other than just circumstance. And those moments are like, oh, now I've got to work twice as hard to get back on the train. But as long as you just get back on it, things just naturally come back, because your body knows that, you've built the habits, you've built those things. The other one is doing things alone is actually rubbish. It's so much better to be accountable to others, to be responsible for what you're doing. In the same way, in the past, I love training by myself, but, like working with you, training with my mates, that extra push, the visibility doesn't allow you to hide.
Yeah. Yep.
Blokes are very good at rationalizing things to ourselves. I'll, only do this set at half effort or whatever. I can't do anymore or whatever it is. But if you've got someone, especially like yourself, where you're like, no, just keep going. Drop a weight. And basically, I've tried to shake your hand at the end of each set, and it's just, there you go. So it's,
take
you
my
need
strong
that.
hand.
Yeah, you need that accountability, especially if you're someone who hasn't started with that or aren't naturally good at doing that, which is not a dig at people. I'm not naturally good at that. I need people to be accountable to build that foundation. And then now, a year later, I've built that foundation, and then it has just become ingrained in me that, I don't necessarily need to track a workout or track what I'm eating, because it's just habit. It is ingrained, you just know what you're doing.
Yes.
It becomes second nature to yourself to eat well, to train well, to listen to what your body is saying.
Yeah. And mate, on that note, right, talking about eating well, I remember specifically early on, you mentioned before about you have weeks where you might gain 1 kilo because of circumstance. I can't remember how long it was, but you went away for work or something, or you went down home for a bit, and there was
it's Christmas for like 3 weeks.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I remember prior to that, so we met, and then we coaching until you went away, and then we, sort of got back on the wagon. You had some stuff to do while you're away, but it's Christmas, right? Like everyone's sort of like had a bit of a lull. My point is, prior to that, we were like working on nutritional habits, but you weren't tracking food. Yeah. And then when you got back, I remember a walk and talk. I remember where I was. It was like up the back near our train line. And we were talking about a plan. So when you came back and we were going to get back into it, we were discussing the nutrition thing. And I don't know, words to the effect of like, we need to start tracking food for a period of time. And I remember prior to you going away, I don't know if you intended this, but there was almost like some resistance that a lot of people have, because it's like, I got to get my fitness pal out, I got to weigh the things, and I need to buy scales, and it's hard, and I got all these other things to do in my life. And in my opinion, it's like, if you have a goal, if this is your goal, and this is what a coach is saying, this is the next step towards that goal. So credit to you for leaning into it. It's like, we'll do the thing. And now you've been through that process, you've tracked, you know what to do. And like you said before we press record, breakfast is 4 eggs, 2 bits of bacon, this, like, how to intuitively eat, but only because you went through the process of tracking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk us through that. Sorry for the long intro, but talk us through that process.
Absolutely. I think as well, it's an accountability thing. Initially, it's still a thing where no one wants to be called out as a guy for doing something wrong. Even if it's a betterment for you, it's still hard to admit, I'm not doing that as well as I could be. And, I think until that point, like, I was like, I'm doing it, I'm getting results, I'm getting there. It doesn't have to be 0 to hero. But then coming back after Christmas, I was relatively good, but wasn't great. And it could, like, you could see that in the photos, in like the weight was just fluctuating. It went up a little bit, came down a little bit, but there wasn't any continued downward progress in terms of weight at the time, which was the goal. And then after that, getting back up here to Brizzy, it was, I almost say, like I can't say it was a moment, but it was something just switched on, and I was like, well, if I actually want this to really work, why am I only giving half an effort to it? I'm doing all of this, but I need to be doing this. You need the whole thing. So you're 100% right. I don't now because I know what I need to eat. I know how my body works. I know what it needs. It talks to me and says, okay, I need something here. I need a carb load. I need a little bit more protein. You get to that point. But to learn how to do that, you have to be taught and then go through the process. It's like anything, you don't just walk into a gym and pick up a 150 kilo deadlift. You get taught how to lift a bar, build it up. And then when you do know how, that's where you can start building those weights up. Same thing with tracking food. Genuinely makes the world of difference to start off with.
100%. Man, and now we were also talking offline. I want to share this too. You made a comment like, what'd you say? No processed sugars.
Yeah.
How's
at
that
the moment,
changed in your life?
I think we love convenience in this world. And I think I also fell victim to that just in day-to-day life. I was working 10, 11 hours a day, aircraft engineering, so it's pretty full-on kind of stuff. And so the last thing you want to do when you get home is cook and clean because you're tired and all the excuses that the world can throw at you and you can rationalize to yourself. But now that I've got some time off between me going down to basic training, I'm gifted with the time, so I can actually really eat well. So I decided to just cut out sugar as much as I can from my diet, and so far so good. Whereas just the processed foods just make you feel rubbish. 4 eggs in the morning, scrambled with some, herbs and salt and pepper, some bacon, and then for dinner, steak, avo, onion, another egg, some garlic, a little bit of salt and pepper. Your
Delicious.
body wants to eat well. And when you do eat well, like, you get endorphin release, you sleep better, your digestion is better, your energy levels are just always good. You're
100%.
a happier bloke, you're not bloated, you feel good in the gym. Even if you don't sleep as well, it doesn't really matter because your body is still fueled well,
Yes.
and it's not starving and it's not searching for that sugar high. It's not searching for the taste. And if I do crave a little bit of sweetness, well, then I might just have a black coffee with a dash of honey in it, or, if absolutely necessary, a no sugar drink, which aren't the crash hot things. But if you need something like that, like a Pepsi Max, although no sugar, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not going to derail you. So,
yeah, that's right. And mate, you made a comment too about that you decided to go to do no processed sugars. Now, Andrew, 12 months ago or 18 months ago, you wouldn't have made that decision.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So,
Nah.
and where I'm going with this is, if you're listening or watching this and you're like, there's no way I could do that. Half my diet's got processed sugars. Exactly right. However, first step, next step, it's like down the line. So don't get resistant in like, I can't implement change because it's all too much. I'm not saying go from 0 to hero, like Andrew said before. It's like, what is your one next step? And often I think we get hung up in, okay, you might look at someone who's really lean, really fit, really muscular, an athlete, whatever, or someone in your family or friendship group that's like, well, you call them like the health freak, or they're a bit weird to you, but to them, what they're doing is so normal because they've been through all these layers and all this process over probably years of development.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
We're talking about a huge change for you in 12 months, let alone what it will be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the track.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, just perspective on if you're looking at someone thinking, oh, I just could not do that. Well, that's probably right. But it's not saying that you can't make a healthier choice now, which will propel the next decisions.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, again, going back to the thing that I've learned, is that comparison really is the biggest thief of your happiness and mental, like, well-being. Is that you walk into a gym And you will see blokes who look like marble Greek statues. You will see ladies there as well who are just as chiseled, and it's very easy to get caught up in your mind saying, oh, I wish I could have a body like that or whatever. These guys and girls are probably in there 3-4 hours a day. They've got a lifestyle that supports them doing so, or they've got a goal that they're working for that they want enough that it makes them do that. And it's not to say that your goal is any less than theirs. You're doing more than someone who isn't going to gym and isn't making them better. Some people have just learnt to run while you're still walking, and that's all right.
That's right.
And I think the biggest example that happened to me was when I started doing running programs and started building my running. One of my mates, Campbell's a really good runner. And I started asking him, how do I get into it? And he was asking me some times, and then he shared with me his times in, say, the 5K. And it's, insane. He can do like a 16 or 17 minute 5K, like incredible stuff. And he's like, don't be disheartened, dude. I've been running for 8 years. And I'm like, makes sense. I've been running for 4 months versus 8 years. And, considering when I started, the first 5K I did was 32 minutes. And then I ran a 29:56, which was sub 30, which was great. And now I'm sitting at around that 28, 27 mark, and it's just consistently lowering and lowering and lowering. As long as you just keep doing it.
Mate, that's great perspective and a really good comment on comparison being the thief of joy is the phrase that I was told or read in a book or something. But it's exactly what you said. It's comparing someone else's journey, which no two humans are the same. We have so many differences. So it's like, that's why I said before, whether it's you or I or someone listening, what's our one next step? And that, in my opinion, like we've been through the coaching framework, it has to be attributed to your goals, not anyone else's.
Exactly.
So it's like, what's your specific goal? What's the mission that you're on? And the second thing I wanted to just respond to on your comment is putting people on your like personal board of directors, which is part of my coaching framework. Putting people around you and closing proximity on people that can help your journey. Andrew didn't just hire me to help him. You're also like, well, I need a mate to go to the gym with. I need a mate to run with. You're finding people to close proximity on, to get close to, who are good at specific things that you need to be good at. And that's like, and for some people it's cooking classes or getting a chef in for a day and learning things. For some people it's finding a running buddy or whatever. But again, as a listener, it's not about, just doing everything alone. Sometimes you need a bit of a hand, and it can take humility. Hey,
absolutely. And as a guy, I think, for the blokes listening, that's the hardest thing for us, is to admit we need help, or to admit we aren't as good as we should be.
Yeah.
And that's something that, surrounding yourself by good people who, want to do better and want to see the best come out in you is great. All too often we see in the world that there are people who don't really have your best interests in heart. I'm going to shamelessly plug the church here, but being part of my church, you develop friendships and a community with people who genuinely care about your well-being. They share the same faith and the way that we go through life with, the things that are set out in the Bible for us. That is prevalent in all areas of their life. The 4 gents that I go to church with very regularly, we're all happy and healthy guys because we want to do that to each other. We encourage each other to, have you been to the gym? How's it all going with that? What's it look like for you? And then when we go together, you build this framework of guys who want the best for you. And it just makes all the difference, rather than just trying to be a one-man fortress against the world, because it gets tiring. Totally. Really tiring.
Big time. And mate, having people in your circle and in your community that are like-minded in your well-being, in your faith, in your beliefs, in your work, and all of that is so important. I think I was only talking about this with someone at the gym. I think it was this morning. Talking about how I didn't really focus a lot at school, right? And we were just discussing how now I can sit at my computer and do focus work for like 10 hours straight with some lunch in between, because I genuinely want to do this stuff. And at the time, not that school's bad, but at the time I didn't want to do it. But now I do.
Exactly.
So it's not an attention problem. It's a problem with the thing that I'm doing. My point is, working at school, it's a lot about, sure, there's some group stuff, but it's a lot about learn this, don't collaborate, do exam. It's all you.
Yeah,
Whereas in the workplace or in life, it's collaboration, learning off each other, doing things together.
absolutely.
And so if you haven't already and you haven't broken down that barrier for yourself, you can lean into that process of going, again, who can I put around me to help on this journey? And sometimes they're the people living in your house or the people at work or church or wherever it is for you. Lean into that process because help is really important
Mm. The other
when you
thing
need it.
that I was going to say is that for people, what are the challenges, issues, learnings that I got is when you challenge yourself, there's no, like I had a pretty big goal to go from 105 and to get me fighting fit is what we called it. You know, we didn't have a time frame, but I said, I need to get into the RAF. There are certain fitness requirements, need to do all these things and get there. However, we didn't just go and start training like you would as a special forces bloke. You know, the challenges and change in your life, people are change averse. However, you have to change to get better. So doing so in increments that actually are sustainable for you is one of the biggest things I worked out, is that you can't rush progress, especially when it comes to your body, because if you rush progress, you get injured and you learn the wrong things and your body builds in a bad way. But the 5-week training blocks that we went through, it was at times repetitive, and you're like, oh gosh, I want to do something different. I want to do something else. But the thing is, every single step of that, every exercise, every rep was a small change that was sustainable. It wasn't like, cool, we're now going to take 15 to 20 kilos and add it to your thing, and then you can't even lift it. And I think for those listening, and watching, it is vitally important to understand what your change tolerance is, and then add a tiny bit to it, because that's where growth appears.
How can I get if there's anything there?
I think for me, the way that I am as a person, I need to understand why I do things. And this is probably shocking for being in the Defense Force where I need to follow orders, but I really suck at just following an order. I understand the need for it, but sometimes I just need to know some stuff. And so when it comes to training and gym, you know, the questions that I did have and building that trust base is, I can see outwardly that you're a fit instructor, which is saying more than some, as we've seen in the past. You're walking the walk, which means, okay, initially there's a surface level trust. He looks the way he does because that means he must be relatively disciplined and does those things. Then it comes down to a personal thing of, I'm doing these things because I'm told so. I don't really understand it. Let me ask why, and then I can shut up about it. You know, and that's just how I work. Good. But I think a lot of other guys out there would have a similar mindset. And to a point, I also think it's a little bit of pride. You know, you don't want to be led by others. You know, guys, they're their own dudes, you know, like, oh, I'm the best. But sometimes, as you were saying before, it's about actually being humble and saying, I actually don't know these things. I've come to you for a reason. I need to trust you to do those things because clearly you can do them. So it got to a point where, as we said, we had a back and forth. You explained it. I continued to do those things and it worked out. You build that trust base. Now, if you say these things, go and do this. You're like, righto, I'll go do these things. You know, because tick this box, you get result. Yeah, and that's a trust-based thing. If you've never done that before, you've never seen results, having worked with a personal trainer before, you need to build that. However, I think it's just a personal thing where I came from of needing the knowledge. Some people are better at just doing it, but for me, I just like understanding. And through understanding, then I can reason to myself in those moments of like, okay, it's tough. I know I'm doing this over and over again, but here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. Just do it.
Why? You know?
Humans love that. But without a coach, you know, if you have a goal in mind, a very specific one, and you've struggled in the past and you've never been able to do it and get there, it takes so much load off you. You know, you're not accountable to yourself, because if you're accountable to yourself, I'm tired today, work was long, I don't have time. Whereas if you have a thing, you know, and there's obviously financial element to it, which is a great motivator. It's like, I'm paying $200, I might as well do this, you know? So if nothing else, gets you there. $200 leaking out of your wallet each week is heavy. Mind you, that is for 2 sessions, just by the by. In that same scenario, it's a motivator. We are motivated by things like that. And having someone like you as a trainer for people who need it, there are elements that I would say that there would be some people who wouldn't benefit. But the thing is, for guys, I think the way you go about it works well for a guy's brain. For guys who need that, who need direction, and to cut through the modern societal influence of the lack of accountability that a lot of us are suffering from. I would say go and find a goal, not just go to the gym, not sign up to personal training, because humans need direction. Living life without purpose is a terrible curse that a lot of people in today's society with the cult of individualism live through. And it really saddens me, and it could be, hey, I want to lose, 15, 20 kilos. I want to look better for my wedding. I want to be able to run a half marathon. Pick a goal that has a measurable outcome and put a time frame on it. For me, it was, I relatively guessed that it might take me a year to get into the Defense Force, God willing. Let me then say, all right, I need these parameters of fitness standards by this time next year, seek and destroy, for those people who are struggling with that, really, in the grand scheme of things, looking back, it isn't that much to do, and it is so worth it. You just got to do it. You'll look back and you won't ever rebuke yourself for that. It also does go to say you do need to want to do it, and it does say, the longest journeys start with a single step, which is 100% right. If you want that goal, your first step is finding out what that goal is, and so arguably, sign up to a gym, do whatever. Yeah, sure. Start walking, make some little changes in your diet, but pick that end goal, know where you want to be, and then work backwards from there. No, I appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
Talk soon, mate.